You know, they say one of the symptoms of COVID is complete loss of taste. So if you find any one of my jokes funny, you may want to see your doctor. Hey kids, Adam here. Today I want to talk about how to get thick, wide, rich, full-sounding guitars in your mixes. If you ever had it where you have a guitar and it's just wimpy and it's kind of up the middle and it doesn't really sound good, and you put some maybe widening plugins or stereo width, or you play around, maybe there's some doubling plugins you have, it just doesn't sound like you hear on the radio and how you hear in your songs that you really love and really sound great with really great guitar sounds. I'm going to show you how to get really thick guitars in Reaper. Now, before we start here, I just want to say that really the best way to start to get wide guitars is to double track everything. What I mean is you set up your recording rig, you record a guitar track, it's perfect, it's great, and then you go back and you play a second take on separate tracks, not actual Reaper takes, but second tracks, and you record it again. And those two will fit together to sound just extra wide and extra huge. Reason being is there's no way for the human body to actually perform something perfectly twice in a row. It's just not possible. We just aren't that mechanical, which is a good thing, because you can get much better and much wider sounding performances. Now think of a vocalist. Ozzy's been doing this back since the 70s. Dave Grohl's been doing this since the 90s, where they sing once and then they sing right over it, and it gets that like airy, thick, ethereal kind of feel. With guitars, you get thickness and you get width. You get this giant stereo spread, and that's how you make your guitars sound commercial. That's how you make your mixes sound professional. So let's go over to Reaper. I'll show you what I'm doing. I'll show you how I get this just with some EQ and some reverb. All right, we're over here in Reaper. This is a song my band released last year called Breakaway. It's kind of a funky, poppy, fun song, upbeat, great groove to it. And there's different guitar sounds. As you can see, everything in green here on the screen is guitar. And what I'm going to show you first is a distorted guitar, and then we'll go over and show you how this works in a kind of a clean sounding guitar. All right, let's start with the distorted kind of crunchy guitar, and I'll start it playing in the mix here. This is a pre-chorus leading up to the first chorus. So the guitars are super wide, there's plenty of width, there's plenty of separation from everything else, you can hear everything that's going on. And let me show you how I did that. So starting out, play the guitars just by themselves with the processing that I have just on the main channel. So they sound pretty good. There's a little bit of reverb and a little bit of effects on it. The guitarist recorded this on a Line 6 Helix, and what we did for the first take, it's a stereo setup, so there's a left and right in the tracks coming in. What we did is we just took those left and right and panned them both left on the first recording, and in the second run through, we took those and both panned them to the hard right. I just created folders here. Don't be alarmed at all the number of folders I have. I just created a folder for all the guitar, pre-chorus guitars, and then created one for the left, one for the right. If you're doing single tracks, you could probably get away with 2 levels fewer folders. That's fine. It doesn't matter how you do it. What we're looking for is putting something on the left and something on the right. So on the main guitars themselves, I did a Scheps 73. I put a little bit of preamp. I bumped the input in so that the VU meter hits right about 0. And then I did this mid bump at 1.6K. The 1073 EQ is magic. 1.6K, the mid band is magic on guitars. It's actually the default setting too. Almost like the plugin manufacturers know what they're doing. Weird. Now just a almost 4 dB bump there, and then high pass filter of 80 Hertz. And then I have the CLA2A compressor. I have just about 3 dB of gain reduction all the way across. Distorted guitars are going to have built-in a kind of natural compression based on what distortion is, but I still want to smooth these out just a little bit, and it's mostly to glue them into the mix. If you have a various compressors on all of your instruments, it helps to everything to kind of just mesh and meld together in your final mix. So on top of that, what I did is I brought up the SSL channel and I created one for both my left tracks, one for both my right tracks. Starting on the left one, I swept around and I looked for a frequency that I thought sounded good. I did this on this green band here. And what I took the gain, put it up to 7 or 8, even 9, and solo the tracks out. You want to make sure you do this in solo, even though most mixing you should be doing as part of the mix and not in solo. In this specific case, you have my permission to go solo. And then I just swept around, and I knew it was going to be, guitars are going to be anywhere between, say, 500 and 2,500 as a very, very, very general broad rule. Do not hold me to that. For this one, it was like 1.06K that I thought sounded really good. I gave that a 3 dB bump. Then I went to the second guitar on the right side, and I did the same thing. And I swept around, and on this red channel, and I used the bell, make sure I don't want to do a high shelf, I want the actual bell. And this one was 1.8K, and that where I thought that sounded really good. So I gave that a 3 dB bump. And then you notice on the opposites, I cut 3 dB of the same frequency on the left side, and I cut 3 dB of the same frequency on the right side, so that I have now left and right is cut here, boosted here, and then on the other way around, it's cut here, boosted here. What that gives is a 6 dB spread of separation between the two guitars. And because these frequencies are kind of relatively, they're within 800 hertz of each other, kind of close together in that kind of mid-rangey, almost to mid-highs, we're getting almost the equivalent of a 12 dB of separation. And your ears really want to hear that difference. They want to hear something different, and that's what makes things sound wide. Something different here, something different there. So let me play it off and on with both of these bypassed, and then I'll turn them on halfway through. So you're going to need good earbuds, good headphones, or good studio monitors in order to be able to hear this, but it just opens up. And then let me play this in the mix, and you'll be able to kind of just hear this open up just a little. You almost can't put your ear on it, but it just opens it up. And once you get mastering and all the other things gone, it's just this wide open guitar sound. So here we go. So it gives it life. It brings it out more, brings just the edges, makes them come alive. And it's not volume. Because we've done 3 dB boost and cuts the same way, there's no volume add to adding this EQ on. It's exactly the same volume. There's just this, it's more on the sides. One other thing I do, you've seen in my videos, I create a verb short, and I add that to all my instruments. That's a room reverb. I've used a number of different reverbs. I'm not going to get into that in this video, or we could go down a really long rabbit hole. What I did is I copied that into 2 new channels. I called a verb L for left, verb R for right, and the same exact settings, I just panned it hard left and hard right. So then what I do is I send the left channel guitar to the right reverb, and the right guitar to the left reverb. And let me play you before and after, just the guitars on this, and you'll be able to hear what that sounds like. And it just opens it up even more. And then in the mix, so it just kind of opens it up really, really wide. Sounds great on distorted guitars. So it also sounds great on clean guitars. So let's take a look at that. So here's my clean channel with these effects type things off. has a natural stereo feel because, again, this is the Line 6 Helix. We did not double track these, but we used the natural spread that was there. So on my folder channel for these guitars, I did basically the same thing I did with the Distorted. I put the 1073 on with the preamp, boosted the input gain a little bit. This time I did a high cut. This 12K with clean guitars specifically can get a little bit harsh, and this 12K band here in the 73 can really help tame that without losing any of your sheen. I did a mid boost again with a 1.6K, and I did a high pass filter at 160 because there was a little bit more low rumble than I wanted, and 80 just wasn't doing it, so I bumped it up to 160. And then the LA2A again for a little bit of compression. These, because they're clean, they're a little bit more dynamic, but I still kept to that like 3 to 5 dB of gain reduction area. So then on these, I used ReaEQ or ReaEQ, or however you want to pronounce it. And I did the same exact thing. So band 1 here is a high pass filter just below 300. Band 2 I boosted on the left guitar at 1047, and I by 3 dB, and then I cut by 3 dB on the right guitar. On the right guitar, band 3 is 1807. And I boosted by 3, and then on the left guitar, same band, and I took 3 dB off. So again, we have the same no volume difference. We're doing the same types of things on each side, and we're doing kind of, you know, this thing on each way. So play this, and then I also added the right and left reverb, right reverb to left track, left reverb to the right track. I'll turn that on, and we'll leave the reverb on the whole time, and I'll just show you the EQ moves here. And you can really hear, because there's some extra things going on in this guitar. There's almost like a tremolo type effect. There's a little bit of a delay. There's some reverb on the tracks coming in. And by doing these EQ bumps, they kind of accentuate those in your ears, so you can hear them going back and forth. So let's play this in the context of the mix, and I'll turn them off and on as we go in.
Full groove, it's just getting started. Your moves, they can't complain. Full groove, it's just getting started. Don't ever go away.
And there, you almost lose the guitars when the EQ goes out, because it moves just a little bit in, and it's not along the edges. There's a lot of things going on at that frequency range. There's keys and a lot of vocals, and you just kind of lose it by not having that extra width and that extra separation. So there it is, how to get super wide guitars. I'm using this technique on a lot of recordings. It works really well with distorted guitar, but it also works well with clean guitar. Give this a try in your next mix. Let me know in the comments if you do anything like this, if you've seen this trick before, if you've tried it, and if it's worked or not for you. I'm really interested to see if these things that I'm telling you guys are actually applicable in the real world outside of, you know, Dad's little studio here. All right, so that's it for this video. Please click like, comment, subscribe, share to your friends, hit the little bell thing to get annoyed when I upload new videos. If you want me to support me financially, click the buy a Coke link to buy me a Coke. And until next time, have yourself a great week. Now, the first thing to do when recording your guitars, I like Coca-Cola. It's red. It tastes good. It's refreshing. It's not very good for you, but it tastes good. No. Fail?